Access Sports, and I'm your host, Allie Clifton. Joining me is our Laker insider, Mike Bresnahan, and co-host of Locked On Lakers. Wow. You like that? Brian Kamenetsky.
Yeah. Who's your other host?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm unfamiliar
we don't know
with his
his
work.
name.
It's actually it's an open gig. If anybody out there is interested, hit me up on Twitter.
So does that mean Andy has to slide, or
he is expendable? He is,
That you're so wrong. You know who's not expendable? Chris McGee. He'll be joining us later in the show.
I would agree with that. Is he available? I would love to host a show with Geeter.
With Geeter?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I can slide if you would like.
He's our guy. BK, sorry, bud.
Oh, well.
Good to see the both of you. We got a packed show. The Lakers were busy this week, as we are already, as they continue to fill up another one of their remaining roster spots on Monday. Free agent, former Laker, Rajon Rondo has agreed to join the Lakers on a one-year deal. Rondo played a combined 45 games for the Hawks and Clippers last season, averaging 17 minutes a game. Now, Rajon was a big part of the Lakers' 2020 championship team, in case you forgot. The 17th title in franchise history. His numbers that season were solid in the regular season, but as is often the case with Rondo, playoff Rondo was even better. All offensive numbers were on the rise. And Brez caught up with Rondo at the Lakers facility. He shared why he made a return to the purple and gold.
This is the caliber of people that work in this organization. And obviously the opportunity to win another championship. It's a special team this year, it's a special group, and I'm looking forward to doing what I do best, is trying to develop chemistry with everybody and figure out how we can win.
A lot of new faces since you last played for this franchise. How do you see the Westbrook and LeBron and the AD triangle kind of working out?
3 future Hall of Famers, 3 super elite talents on the court at one time, 3 great minds. It should work.
What are you hoping to bring to this team? Obviously, your leadership was pretty key, as well as your play on the court in the playoffs 2 seasons ago.
Whatever it takes, on and off the court, being a professional, ready when my name is called, and just keeping the guys together, most likely. Whatever the team needs, like I say, as far as from Frank, being the player, bridge gap player, just trying to help the team as many ways as possible.
LeBron had a funny tweet earlier this month. He said, hey, don't call this team too old. I'm going to remember anyone who said that. What are your thoughts on this franchise? Indeed, some older players on the roster right now.
We do have a lot of great older players on the team, but like I said, great. And I'm looking forward to picking their minds, learning from them. And I go actually from being the oldest guy on the team to, I think maybe I'm 5th now. So I haven't been that way in a while. So I'm looking forward to just kind of being around the guys and, like I said, being a sponge and learning from those great minds.
Interesting you say that. So you really are going to talk to them about what they're up to, what they've been doing, and anything that you might be able to pick up on too.
Well, it's just about learning and watching, their work ethic. Guys don't play in the league 16, 18, 17 years without discipline and being a strict diet to their body. So this will be my 16th season as well, so we can all learn from each other.
A few of you guys, Trevor, you and Dwight, you won championships with the franchise here, and then you came back. What do you think is the thing about this franchise that kind of has a magnetism to it?
It's where all the greats have played. All the greats have played. All the greats have won. The best franchise in basketball, arguably. Top 2 for sure. So it's a special place. Putting on this jersey, this uniform, and with all the names on the walls, you just kind of, you get a sense of urgency as far as just understanding what it takes to win and wanting to put your name along the walls versus these banners as well.
All right, guys, not to toot my own horn, but a couple of days ago on this show, Geeter was hosting, and he asked us who we would like to see as part of one of those last 3 roster spots. And Rajon Rondo was my guy.
Wow.
I said, I would like to see Rondo come back to the Lakers.
So
Here we are a couple days later.
Like a percentage of his
I
game checks or something?
But nonetheless, you know how I feel about this, because now I'm going to ask both of you. We'll start with you. How do you feel about Rondo being back?
You know what? Like in a year especially where they have so many new players, like they've completely turned over this roster. When you look at the role that he's probably going to play as a 3rd point guard, probably some DNPs in there. He's not going to play every night, not going to play big minutes. What he is incredibly predictable. The coaching staff knows him, the stars of this team know him. Everybody knows exactly what Rondo's going to be able to give you. So that when he does need to play, whether it's because, Russell Westbrook is out for a couple games or whatever it might be, it's an easy fit. It's an easy ask for the coaching staff. They don't have to figure out how are we going to use Rajon. They know, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, some excellent points. And let's not forget what he does in the postseason. I know he kind of didn't do as much for the Clippers this past year. But I go back to 2 seasons ago, 19 points in the clincher, Game 6 of the NBA Finals, 16 points and 10 assists in Game 2 of that series. Great against Houston in the first round that year, averaged 11 and 7. So he can obviously turn it up if needed to. I really was fascinated by what he told me earlier today when he said, hey, I'm going to be asking some of these guys for tips and for things that they've done in their career. How is he the 6th oldest player on any team ever?
It's a badly needed injection of youth, Mike.
We got Rondo. Now they're going to really bring down the average age of this team. It's a great pickup no matter what, and I can tell he's happy to be back with the Lakers.
Yeah, and with someone like him, to your point, Brez, with a mind like that, a resume like that, to still want to learn at this stage of his career speaks volumes of him. We're going to cover all bases for a second, okay? This is just a little something light, but let me take you back to 2020 Western Conference semis, Houston Lakers, Westbrook, Rondo's brother from the sidelines. Can Westbrook and Rondo get along, BK?
Yeah, I mean, I think they didn't sign Rondo's brother or Russ's brother. I mean, it's like this. I think they'll be able to figure this out.
I said something light, and I said cover all bases.
I think, but it is a great little side story of just like, but this is one of these deals as you're on the other team, you're butting heads, all that kind of stuff. As soon as you're on the same side, everybody's getting along again. These are competitive people with competitive families, but it'll be fine.
I think it was during that time, too, we all realized that we want fans back in the stands for things like that.
Yes.
To an extent.
Yeah. I mean, I actually forgot about it, so we started talking about it earlier today. My thing on that is this. This team there's so much professionalism on this team. There's so much age among this group of guys. Maybe if this happened when when Russ and Rondo were each like 23 and 25, that would be a problem if it was only a year or two after that. They don't care about that. They both have one common goal, that's to win a championship. And I don't worry about that at all. A little side story, by the way, as I'm talking to Rondo, we didn't show that in the interview. Trevor Ariza walked onto the court, the practice court, the training facility, started heckling Rondo, saying, where were you for weightlifting today? What's wrong with you? And Rondo was like, okay, yeah, get me on the group text. Let's do this. Let's do this. I don't sense any problems at all among the veteran guys and even the younger guys on this team.
BK just kind of talked about it in terms of will he play every single night? You don't know. He's not your backup essentially, but how do you think Rondo will impact this team? Obviously a bit different than the team he had in 2020.
Yeah, the second unit was all his in 2020. That might not be the case this time. I could see Russ spending a lot of time with the second unit while LeBron takes a breather towards the end of the first quarter, early second quarter, and same for like end of third, early fourth quarter. Rondo's going to have to pick his spots, and he experienced that a little bit last season with the Clippers. I think he only played in 3 of their games against the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. So, I think Rondo's already starting to realize, okay, here I am on a minimum contract. That's not a ton of money for him. He was just coming off a 2-year, $15 million deal that he signed with Atlanta before the buyout. So he might realize, all right, I'm just going to blend in. I'm just going to fill in the cracks whenever I'm asked to. He might not even be the starting point guard on the second unit. We'll have to see what Frank Vogel says about that.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I hope we don't need to see playoff Rondo. I think if things are going well for the Lakers, he's not going to be a fundamental part of that playoff rotation either. But where I think he will play a big role is filling that Jared Dudley space where, LeBron has deep respect for Rondo, AD, all these guys, Russell Westbrook, the coaching staff, they all have a tremendous amount of respect. And Rondo is a guy who's very well respected by older players and younger players in almost every locker room he's ever been in. And so I think he fills that role, and it's an important one. Maybe not in as media friendly a way as Duds did. We all love Duds, and we don't, Rondo doesn't talk to us the same way. But for that team, I think he fills a very similar role.
There is something there. Frank Vogel said that's the one thing he missed, having the voice and presence of Rondo inside the locker room a season ago. Check this out. We'll take it one step further. With the addition of Rajon Rondo, the Lakers now have 3 of the top 4 active career assist leaders. LeBron at 2, Russ at 3, and then Rajon there at 4.
That's a great stat. Come on.
And if that wasn't enough,
can they trade for CP3?
The Lakers, guys, now have 6 players. Did you see this? From the 2012 All-Star team on the roster just before AD wasn't even drafted into the league. This was before that.
And all you got to do is reverse a couple numbers, and suddenly it's the 2021 All-Star team.
There you go. Always thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's good, but it's cool.
Look at how young Marc Gasol looks.
Look at how, they're babies.
Looks like he just woke up.
They all look, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Brez, I want to start with you. We're going to talk the assist offensive side first. When you talk about the active assist leaders there, the offense should be pretty free playing this season.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about any bogging down. That's for sure. We saw that in the playoffs against Phoenix. Granted, there was no AD at the time, but a couple of long droughts that really kind of did in the Lakers on the way to that 3-game losing streak in that series. The ball kind of got stuck, didn't really move a lot, and I think that's a part of the permanent task as far as this roster is constituted. So many good ball handlers. And again, will Rondo be logging 31 minutes a night? Absolutely not. But still, between Russ and LeBron and Rondo, there's going to be a lot of dimes on this team, that's for sure.
If guys move, I think that's if they're not necessarily going to always have the spacing, you know, like when Westbrook's on the floor, that's the concern, everybody. If everybody moves, even on a tighter floor, they still should be able to find guys because LeBron's such a good passer, because AD's a good passer, Westbrook. So if they're moving, they're going to have open opportunities. And if you are one of the shooters on this team, one of the designated guys whose job that is, you're going to get a lot of wide open looks, wide open, like scary wide open, like on an island where if everybody's going to laugh at you if you don't make it.
If you don't make it,
so,
that pressure's a little different.
It is.
You know, Golden State just a few short years ago with KD and Steph and all those guys, their standard was 30 assists per game. They wanted to do that. I think these Lakers should try for something like that as well, and they'll probably be able to hit it on plenty of nights.
Russ going to try that for himself.
By himself, right?
BK, how long do you think will it take chemistry-wise for this squad to come together? As you've heard, I feel like you've heard the veteran group speak a lot about how elite they are, the experience, and kind of that. How long do you think it'll take?
I think the comp is a couple of years ago, the title season. We thought it could take a little while. They came out of the gate very quickly. It came together very quickly. I think something like that could happen again this year, where at the very least the results are good right away because it's a home-heavy early schedule against teams that, quite frankly, aren't that good, you know, by NBA standards. So they'll have an opportunity to practice a lot because they'll be at home, which I think will help, and then get out on the floor and build some chemistry against some weaker teams. And so there's a very good chance, actually, that it could come together quicker, I think, than some people are expecting, especially since, you know, the guys who are leading it, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, these are smart basketball players.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's pretty seamless. If they really are about that one goal that they all say, to win a championship. More news. Could the Lakers be looking for more players? Brooklyn Nets center DeAndre Jordan has been said to be a strong candidate to join the Lake Show if Brooklyn and the big man can reach an agreement on a contract buyout. DeAndre has averaged just under 8 points and 8 boards the last 2 seasons with the Nets. Let's take it one step further. Also on the rumor mill, Kevin Love has been connected to a potential buyout. However, he has expressed no interest in wanting to leave or take a buyout from Cleveland, according to Woj and ESPN. With the uncertainty, Brez, of Marc Gasol, any of these two names attractive for you?
Kevin Love in particular. Why? Because he stretches the floor. The Lakers cannot have enough shooters on this roster, and he's one of those guys that definitely could help them in that aspect. Look, he had a bad season. I'm sure he'd be the first guy to admit it, and he has a lot of money. It's going to take a lot to buy him out of that $60 million that he's owed. But before last season, before he was injured, he had a bad calf injury, his 3 years before that, he averaged 17 points and 10 rebounds a game, and he can shoot the three. He's close to 40%, been close to 40% in a couple of his seasons, and I think he'd be a nice addition to this squad. If they do get DeAndre, it'd be more like the JaVale and Dwight team. That turned out pretty well for them, too, a couple years ago.
Yeah, good rebounder, Love, good passer. He has kind of that feel of like what Blake Griffin might do, like, you know, kind of resurrect. I am not in love with the DeAndre Jordan thing. I actually like the idea of Gasol with Dwight.
Yeah.
Just because I
like
feel like
spacing.
it's you have a one center who can space the floor a little bit. DJ, who can still rebound a little bit, can still defend a little bit, but not the guy he was in LA. I would just of these two, I would rather go for Kevin Love if you had an option.
I'm sensing some I love LA tie-in for you with Kevin Love. There's something there.
UCLA, Russ.
I'll find some nice things to say if they come back with DJ in a few weeks. But you know, I'd rather have Mark.
The last 3 seasons for Kevin aren't really I think he still has a lot to offer the game. You remember he went 4 straight trips to the finals, and then within a matter of a month, they went from continuing to be a championship team to rebuilding.
Right. There's something.
So the situation's a bit
There's something
different
about getting on a good team.
He will not be on the team at the end of next season.
Time for a break. But when we return, we're talking the potential of the.
I started and kind of run it back. I want to win a championship and compete for it. So being around this group of guys, these group of guys that we're gonna have is gonna be a plus for me.
I think I bring a lot to the table here as well with a lot of greats here, man. LeBron, AD, Russell, Carmelo, Dwight. Everybody, man, everybody. I can feed off them.
You, of course, go against the Lakers in your rookie year in the finals.
I didn't play the previous series, and I jumped in and played in the finals, so I had to be ready to go. Obviously, I gave us a little spark, but didn't get it done. Pretty mad about the loss, and I'm trying to get that back the upcoming year. I'm a guy that knows how to sacrifice for the better of the team. I know how to do that, and I'm willing to do that. It's not about myself. It's a team sport, and I want to win. That's why I play this game, for to win.
The Lakers don't just have a lot of great vet players, but they have some younger guys that are full of potential. THT scored 9 points on 46% shooting. Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk averaging double figures while being efficient from outside the arc. So we do talk a lot about how old this team is, and rightfully so, but the Lakers have some young talent with potential on this team when you think of Nunn and THT and Monk. Brez, how do you see each of these guys kind of making their mark on the roster? And I guess the second part of that question is, how do they get minutes to be able to do that?
Yeah, great question, particularly for Monk, who really has to be offense if indeed he's going to stay in the rotation, maybe even see some spot starts here and there. THT, I think, is the key of those three. A, he's the fourth highest paid player on the Lakers, and B, we saw enough from him down the stretch to think that this kid really could be something special at the NBA level. Need to see a little bit better outside shot from him, but really impressed by THT's finish. Kendrick Nunn, though, to me, he is the X factor for the Lakers. I love the pickup. A lot of people thought they would get Patty Mills. He chose Brooklyn. Not long after that, the Lakers said, fine, we'll take Kendrick Nunn. Good young player, second in Rookie of the Year voting to a guy named John Morant just a couple years ago. He's got talent and a pretty good defender, too.
How do you see these guys making the mark?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think you're exactly right about THT in terms of kind of being the linchpin there, just because he can, play a little point guard. Yep. He can play the two. His arms are 74 feet long. He can play the three, depending on the right lineup. And so I think that sort of multi-positionality that he offers is the wild card in terms of how these minutes are going to break down. I also love the Nunn signing. That was my favorite of all the things that Rob Pelinka managed to do this offseason. Great offensive player coming off the bench, and I do think an underrated defender, certainly a neutral defender. The Monk thing, I think, is just fascinating, Mike, because he made a massive bet on himself to come to L.A. and play on this team, go try to win a championship.
With all the veterans.
With all these veterans, and if it works, you can see how it could go. Great season last year in Charlotte. I could also see him being completely buried on the bench.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. And listen, of the Lakers' young core, there's now, we have to, it used to be Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, so you got to shift now.
Of course, you can be about 33 and be part of their young core.
That's actually a great point. When you look at Kendrick Nunn and THT, they both have playoff experience from their rookie year. Kendrick Nunn, you heard him right there. He was playing in the finals. You remember THT, his rookie year. People barely knew who he was outside of the G League, and there he is against Houston playing crucial minutes. The goal for an individual and the goal for a franchise is to develop your young talent. How are they able to do that, Brez, on this team full of veterans? How can they reach their full potential?
Well, I think if the young guys, in particular Nunn and THT, play well, it's going to be trouble for some of these older guys. Maybe Wayne Ellington doesn't get as much playing time as expected. Maybe a guy like Kent Bazemore. He's totally a guy who could be in the starting lineup on opening night. But if a guy like THT really starts playing well, Baze could get less minutes as the season goes on. It's going to be hard. I don't remember seeing a team that is so black and white as far as a lot of older guys and younger guys. Nobody really in between. There's no sophomores and juniors in this Laker university. It's all fifth-year seniors, maybe even grad students and freshmen at this level. Like five-time doctorate candidates. It's funny talking to Rajon Rondo. He said he's the sixth oldest guy on this team. Think about that. I mean, there's a lot of older guys on this team and some younger guys too, though.
So when I think of expectations for these young guys, what Brez was just talking about there, in reaching full potential or developing, As we saw when the Lakers pivoted and started to build this roster around AD and LeBron and it leading to a championship, no longer was it about the young guys. I mean, ask Kyle Kuzma. You're all of a sudden expected to be a veteran on this team. So is it hard to manage that?
It is, but the Lakers need these guys to be good. If we reach a point midway through the season and it's only the older guys and those are the players who are contributing, something's gone wrong. The Lakers paid THT because they expect THT to be able to contribute. Kendrick Nunn got their big exception with the idea that he's going to come in and play a really big role, not just backing up Russell Westbrook, but I think playing alongside of him.
He could start
in a lot of different lineups. Like, they need these guys to come through and play well, so that they don't have to be as reliant on some of these veteran players who might be a little bit more limited in the minutes they can take.
Of the young guys, there's one that we know. He's a homegrown guy, and he's been a part of this rotation, especially last year, and as we just talked about in the playoffs for a little bit against Houston, that is THT. Brez, we've said on this show, the Lakers have invested in him. They believe in him. There's a reason why they did that. He took a big leap from that rookie year to last year. What about his third year? What are the expectations for him in your eyes?
He's got to improve his shooting. If he really wants to be a steady part of that rotation. 28% for three-point range. That's just not enough. He actually decreased. He fell a little bit from his rookie year to last year behind the arc. He just has to get a little bit better shooting. Mid-range as well. You can never let that go with the new kid. And hopefully he's been working on it. Hopefully he has seen that this team signed a lot of shooters, but they're kind of the older types. If they can't play defense, Frank Vogel, very defensive-minded coach, as we all know. He might say, all right, you vet, you're shooting, but you can't play D. Give me Talen Horton-Tucker, younger, more agile perhaps, can play defense, but can he shoot? That's the key.
I'm glad Brez brought that up. Defensively is where he has to separate.
This is the thing with all of these guys, but particularly THT. When you try to figure out who's going to be the closing lineup, who's going to be the starting lineup, what's going to happen in between, all that, it's all predicated on defense. Can Malik Monk defend? Can Kendrick Nunn defend? And can THT defend? If those guys step up and THT is the kind of creator on the offensive side of the ball, but gives them switchability on defense and can guard multiple positions and stay where he's supposed to be and be, at the very least, neutral defensively, he's going to play a lot. Same with Nunn, and that's how Malik Monk is going to get on the floor, too. If those guys don't defend, that's where they're going to lose their minutes, and that's where the job gets more complicated for Vogel.
All right, guys, stay right there. On the other side of the break, we're talking